Hello AWS friends, and welcome to this video about the infrastructure as code generator from AWS, a new service announced right now in 2024. And we're gonna have a look on this tool, if it works as expected and if we can get any benefit from it. You will find the generator here in CloudFormation. In the menu on the left side here, as you can see, there's a new feature. And here in the documentation or in the description here, you find already the three important steps. First, we have to scan our resources in our account, and then we can create a CloudFormation template, and finally, once we have a template created, we can import it, which means it will appear in our CloudFormation console here under stacks, or we can also import it to CDK. So the first step is to scan our resources. As you can see, I did not yet perform a scan. I will do this in a second. Just to let you know, I have set up a new account, a fresh account for this tutorial, for this test, because my account work normally with got a bunch of POCs, and so there will be maybe found a lot of resources, but I want to really get a clean overview what the scan is going to find. So that's why we're gonna perform the scan here in a fresh account in the region of Ireland, where are so far no resources deployed. Let's go. So we say start a new scan, and this will take couple of seconds or even minutes, so I'll be back once this is done and we can have a look what was found here. The scan is done. As we can see, we have found 45 resources, and unfortunately we cannot have a look into these scanned results in here. So to get an overview what was found, we have really to get here to the point to create a template. That's what I'm going to do. I will say create template. I will give it a name, and here we can see we have a deletion and an update policy. So it's retain or delete. I will keep it for now for retain. Just keep in mind later on when we will create our own resources like a EC2, we should really select delete if we also want to be able to delete the instance again. But for now, we can go here with default. To get finally here, we can see here our list of scanned resources. It's important we understand a little bit how the scan function here is working. So let's have a look in here. What was found? As you can see, we have a TINA workgroup. We have a CloudFront cache policies, actually 5. These are the default cache policies from CloudFront. Request policies, also CloudFront. And here we have something from EC2, or better from VPC, routes, route tables. And we have 3 subnets. We have a VPC. Here we have some roles. These are also default roles. And finally, what else? We have a bucket which was deployed already in a different region. I did this yesterday. We have a X-ray group. This is also a default group. So we will find here a lot of default resources. So let's maybe take a look at the VPC. This is exactly this VPC here in the region of Ireland as a default VPC. And for example, the subnets, we have seen 3 subnets also in here are also the default subnets which were already existing once we have created this account. So important to know, you will find the resources in your current region, but also, as you can see, you will see the global resources. For example, CloudFront and S3 buckets are global, but if you want to create, for example, a certificate for CloudFront policy, you must to deploy this in the region of US East. So you can see here also these resources in the global region, your current region, and like CloudFront and Route 50C also from global. Important to understand. Now let's try to generate a CloudFormation template from one of these resources which we have found here on the scan. Let's select the VPC. So we will try to generate a CloudFormation template for our default VPC in this region. So I select the VPC, only the VPC here. And here that's a good feature from the generator. It will already propose the associated resources which go together with VPC, like the roads, the subnets, and so on. And we can keep this selection, say next, and then create a template. So this is gonna take a couple of seconds. And once it's done, I'll be back here. Actually, it's done right now, it was quite fast. So we can see here already the generated template. It's not yet imported in CloudFormation, it's just generated, so therefore we need the third step. As we can see, we have here a lot of names for our resources which are not very nice, which are here with these hash numbers. And there are also some other problems in here which we're gonna discuss later on. For now, I won't have a closer look to the template which was generated in here, and we're gonna discuss this later on when we try to deploy a EC2 instance. For now, I will just say import to stack, and I will name it default VPC. That's what it actually is, the VPC in the region of Ireland. We have no parameters, of course, that's a point. Also important to know, the generator cannot define any parameters. So, but normally we do this when we are writing CloudFormation templates. For example, for VPC, we might define the second range in the setter range, the class B, but that's of course not possible here. So you would have to adapt this generated stack if you want to have parameters, if you want to have input values, outputs, and so on. But for now, for this test, we just say import, and by now the generated stack get here really deployed, or better imported, and once done it should become green, and our VPC should then be really connected to the CloudFormation. For example, by now we should not see yet tags here in the VPC. That's the case for all default resources like these VPC, which are in all regions. But once a resource was created with CloudFormation, you will find default tags for a CloudFormation resource, and therefore later on we should actually, once this is done, see tags for all these resources. So let's wait a second once this is done, and then I'll be back. The import is done, stack is green, we can see the resources here. Of course we don't have any outputs, we have no parameters of course. Let's take a look on our VPC if we can see by now the tags. Yes, as you can see, CloudFormation stack name, and let's take also a look, maybe it's the subnets. You can see here also the default tags for CloudFormation. So by now our default VPC is really connected here with these CloudFormation stacks. So far this worked quite nice. Let's now make a new test, a second test, and we will try to create our own resources. I will launch an instance. I want to create and import the CloudFormation template. I want to delete it and redeploy my instance, see if all this works. So we will manually launch a new instance. So the That's a web server, for example. T2 micro is fine. I don't need a keeper right now. I want to keep it simple. So network settings, we are on the default VPC, which we use to import right now. So let's create a security group, fine. And I also want to connect with HTTP. Since it's going to be a web server here, everything is fine. You would have to add, for example, an instance role if you want to connect with Sessions Manager. But for now, I don't want to connect neither with Keep-Here or with Sessions Manager. So I just hope my script here will work. And install a Apache, and then we would have a nice little test of a web server, and we could try to generate a CloudFormation for this web server. So then that's fine, and now we can launch the instance. And once our instance is fully running, I'll be back and we can have a look. The instance is up. We should now be able to connect with this public IP. So actually I have to switch to HTTP. And as we can see, it works. I was able to connect to my installed web server here. So now we can go and try to generate a CloudFormation template for our web server. So I'll be back here in CloudFormation, Infrastructure's Code Generator, and now we have to start a new scan to find our launched EC2 instances. Again, this will take a minute, so I'll be back in a second. Hello again, the scan is done. We have by now found 52 resources. And again we go here and say create template. Let's call it web server. And this time we're gonna set the deletion policy to delete. This one also, because after creating and importing our stack, I actually want to delete the instance and recreate. Here we go next. And now we are again on the page for our scanned resources, and we will look now for our EC2 instance, right, this one, and we will select only the instance and hope we will here also get the related resources. So we see a network interface, a security group, which we have selected to create a volume and a volume attachment, and review and recreate and say create template. By now the generator should create a CloudFormation template for our just launched web server. We will have a look. Everything works fine, and we will also take a look, for example, if the user data I was entering was really also found here correctly. This you can see is encoded in base 64. So let's paste this in here. And we can see here, yes, the user data script I have inserted when I launched it is also here correctly inserted in the CloudFormation template. There are some issues we're gonna look here in a second, which are not very nice. If you look here in the generated stack, you can already see some points if you have some experience in CloudFormation. But for now, let's ignore this and let's go for import to stack. Let's say web server. Let's go next. No parameters again, of course. What are our changes? We are going to import all these resources. And finally, here we go. And this is going to take us a couple of seconds. I'll be back. The stack was imported. We can see our resources. Again, no outputs, no parameters. And I can by now, before I want to delete these instances, I can copy this by now to a template, and then I'll be able to deploy the the web server again with a CloudFormation template. I just copied this. Let's have a look on the EC2 instance. Let's take a look on the tags. Yes, again, as on the VPC, by now our instance has the CloudFormation tags, so it's under control of CloudFormation. And by now I will be able to delete this web server, and here we go. And once the deletion is completed, we will try to redeploy it with the template we used to save. Let's go for events and see if the deletion works as expected, but actually not. We run here into an error, as you can see. A resource handler return message, the volume is currently attached to the instance. So these kind of errors happens normally when you have ref dependencies in your CloudFormation objects or resources, and there's like a depends on missing. So the volume should be deleted in kind of some order in reference to the instance. So let's see, once the delete is failed, and we can do one thing, we will try to delete it again. We will not select this because actually I expect this to work on the second time, because indeed the instance was deleted and now also the volume should be deleted. So maybe a second try will solve our problem, right? And now, as you can see, the stack was deleted, but actually that's not very nice. We are running here already in an error, so this is terminated, fine. And we could delete the instance, but only with a little bit trouble. So already a small issue by here. Now we can deploy our web server once again with the generated CloudFormation template. Before we do so, let's have a look actually into the CloudFormation template. So here is the generated file. As you can see, the namings are of course not very nice, so you would have to give maybe meaningful names and change as a CloudFormation template. There are no parameters, there are no outputs. We can see a volume attachment, a network interface, a volume, security group, and the EC2 instance. That's the whole stack. And let's go and try to deploy it. Let's call it web server. And submit, and let's see if our web server will be launched again and is working as it used to be. Oops, no, we are running into an error here, as you can see. Network interface, only one primary private IP address can be specified. What else? The following resources fail to create volume, blah blah blah, network face. So we have here some issues that doesn't look very nice. It wasn't actually my expectation. Let's have a closer look into these errors. So I will delete this one here, didn't work. And let's have a look here. It used to say the network interface can have only one private IP address. So indeed we have here set private IP address, and again here the plural. So maybe what about I will comment the first one out, so it's only defined once by now, and we can give it a second try. Call it web server 2. So second try, maybe we could resolve the issue. Nope, again we have an issue. Resource handler return the volume. You can see the ID does not exist. So let's have a look in here. Again, we switch to our CloudFormation template, which was generated, and here we can see volumes, volume ID, and we can see here really a resource ID of a deployed object in AWS, or a deployed resource. That's really a problem. What we should see here in a CloudFormation template is a ref to the volume which was created in here. So indeed this should be actually be the correct syntax here in the CloudFormation. It should have a reference to our volume here and not the deployed ID, of course. We see more problems in here. For example, the instance. We see here a security group. Again, this is the deployed ID of the security group. It should be a reference to the security group here. It should be again a ref to this object here. We can see here, of course, the VPCs were created first, but actually if we create a stack for web server like this, we would of course use import values here and use the outputs from the VPC stack to assign here a subnet or a VPC. And here we have some refs for the network interface. We can see the ref was done correctly to the object here. Also here the group set was done correctly on this instance itself. On other objects, like here we have the same group set for security groups, it was done wrong. It was done with the ID of the deployed resource. So we have a couple of problems here in this CloudFormation stack, and the way it was generated, it will never be possible you can redeploy it. Not in this account, neither, and no chance in another account where you have, or other region where you have a different VPC. So to be able to deploy a EC2 instance from this CloudFormation template, we would have to fix all these errors, like here the security group. This security group does not exist anymore. We just destroyed it. So we would have here, we would need a ref to the security group in this stack. We can go for now with we could go for the subnet IDs, which is not nice, but at least it would work in this account in this region. But we would have to fix a lot of stuff, and that's actually not what I wanted to do. I wanted to speed up my infrastructure as code process. Let's have a look how would a web server which I have deployed right now look like. So the template, that's basically the web server as a CloudFormation which I used to deploy, and as you can see I have the user data. I have a subnet ID which I'm reading here by an import value from the earlier deployed VPC stack, and that's basically everything you need to do. So fixing this CloudFormation stack does us not give really an advantage in comparison to create a CloudFormation stack for a web server if we have already some experience with CloudFormation. So we were able to generate CloudFormation templates from existing resources in our account and region. So far so nice. It was also nice to see the related object were included in the template, but we could not delete and redeploy a resource which we were generating a CloudFormation for. So I think that's a critical issue. Infrastructure as code serves for achieving a short RTO, right? We want to be able to redeploy and deploy our resources again once a disaster happened and we maybe have to set up everything in a new account. So with these templates created by the generator, we would have no chance to again deploy our resources. So once you have created them, you will spend a lot of time to actually fix these generated resources, to adapting all these wrong references, to renaming the resources, to introduce parameters, to use import values, outputs. For example, for VPC stack, normally you would have outputs. You would have the CIDR range, the subnets, which you want to use as input values in your EC2 instances. That's all missing. So I would say the tool needs quite some work before it gets really useful. Right now, it's nice. We can generate a CloudFormation from an existing resource, but this CloudFormation will not serve for in a way you can really use it to set up multiple accounts or stages or redeploy your resources again. So that's the issue. I think it will take some time for AWS to fix this tool. Right now, I think it's far from production ready. Let's have a look at this tool maybe in a couple of months and see if it becomes a little bit more major. Right now, it's not. Thanks for listening and see you on the next video.